Just wanted to say hi, everyone. My name is Caroline. I sit on the Educate team here at Ceros. Really just here to kind of talk to Renee during this and answer some questions and things. But before we get started, just wanted to remind you guys, you can ask questions throughout. So please feel free, send in questions through the chat, through the Q&A window, whichever you're more comfortable with. We will be saving time at the end to answer those. Also, we're going to be sending out the recording of this session and the webinar deck, so you guys can refer back to the recording. You can go back through the deck in your own time if you are interested in looking back at any of the examples or anything that we go through. But with that, Renee, I think I can pass things over to you.
Great. Yes. So as Caroline said, I'm Renee, and I'm head of Customer Success Enablement at Ceros. And my role is to help with all of our onboarding and training for our customer success team, as well as partnering with others like Caroline here to create sessions and materials for our customers like you. So thanks again for joining us today. So for those of you who have joined us previously for these sessions, the goal of this is really just to help to bring to light some of the many ways that you can start integrating interactive content within your company and team, as well as to help you prioritize where to get started, just where it makes most sense based on your goals. So today's session, we are going to be focused more on HR as well as internal comms use cases. But as Caroline mentioned, we do have previous sessions that focus more on external content, within sales, as well as customer success and sales enablement, which you can always refer back to. So we'll go ahead and get started. For those of you who have previously joined, just sit tight for these first few slides as we just set some context for those who are new. So with that, we'll dive in. So the decision to start creating interactive content, it's an exciting point in time for any company and team, because it's an opportunity for you to push your creative boundaries and use that creativity to help move your business and company forward. At the same time, though, it can be a little bit overwhelming in determining what opportunities for interactive are the right ones to get started with and will have the most impact, especially if this is your first time. So to help to start to clarify these key points, you can start this exploration really in two ways. So first, with just thinking through your customer journey and understanding what are all the touch points that someone goes through from learning about your offerings to becoming a customer, and thinking about how interactive can help to make that experience better and maybe a little bit more efficient. Likewise, you can look inwards into your own organization. So thinking through what are your different teams and departments spending most of their time and energies on, and how interactive content can just be helped, used to make them more efficient or promote their activities in a more effective way. And because we are going to be going through HR and comms, this second kind of exercise is definitely going to be more relevant for this. But after you go through this exercise, really the net result of that will be a rough map of main areas of opportunity for use cases where you can start to align interactive content to. So if you discover that, for example, your HR team, they're rolling out some new work policies and protocols post-pandemic, you might want to think about how can you support them through an internal comms campaign. Or if you know that they have a big increase in hiring coming up, thinking about how you can support them through creating recruitment collateral and more. So as we kind of look closer into that HR and internal use cases, you can see here that there's just so many different use cases and opportunities just beyond those two examples that I've mentioned. So the ones that I've highlighted here, they are just scratching the surface of what you can do. And I've chosen these just based on what we see to be most popular with our customers, as well as what we see to be most successful. So I'm going to dive into a few of these here and give some examples through customer stories. But I do encourage everyone, to put into the chat what they might be interested in seeing as well, or ask any questions based on what you're working on. So with that, I will start off at the top with recruitment collateral. So Recruiting quality talent, it can be a challenge and a big expense for any company. There's actually been studies that have shown that the average cost can range from $4,000 to $7,000 per employee that is brought on board. And interactive content can be used at various touch points of that process to help speed things up and decrease costs, just through attracting and appealing to a wider range of qualified candidates. So one of my favorite examples comes from a customer who is a leading national construction company, and they've been with us since 2017. As they were rapidly growing, they had a company-wide mandate to not only hire more employees across various departments, but also to hire a more diverse group of employees. So they felt that one of the ways that they could achieve this was to create interactive content that could be marketed to reach a wider audience and help them to stand apart from their competitors and convince others that they were the best company to work for. So their corporate creative team partnered with various stakeholders across the company to create a variety of assets to support their campaign, such as this microsite, which we see here, which highlights the opportunities they provide for all genders, identities, and races, as well as real profiles of employees who actually started as interns and worked their way up, as well as a career mapping tool to show progression paths available to those who join and more. And they've received positive results from their efforts to date. So they've been able to secure further budgetary resources to expand their efforts into creating other experiences for recruitment, D&I efforts, company culture microsite, and more.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that piece. So just so you guys know, as Renee goes through these, I'm also going to chime in with a couple of examples of how Ceros internally has used the Ceros platform for these various use cases as well. So here you can actually see an example of a career mapping experience that was created by our people and culture team here at Ceros. And what's actually a really cool story about this is you guys probably have heard us often suggest that you jump over to the Ceros Inspire site to look at content created by other companies to get ideas of cool ways that you can be leveraging the platform and using the tool for yourselves. And the cool story that with this piece is the experience that Renee actually just walked you guys through served as inspiration for our team when building this piece. So just as we're encouraging you guys to use other Ceros experiences as inspo, which is kind of the whole theme of these webinars, you'll see that we actually do that here too. We saw that piece, thought it was super cool. And our human resources team was like, you know what, let's create a large career mapping experience similar where any Ceros employee can jump in and see, you know, their potential career paths or different career paths for different teams and just how they can grow and develop here within Ceros. So just another cool example that I wanted to point out here.
Thanks, Caroline. Yeah, and it is funny just to see how it does go both ways. So I'm next going to jump into CSR and D&I, which stands for Diversity and Inclusion and Corporate Social Responsibility. I know we like our acronyms here. So these use cases, they have been gaining prominence as they are important to building engagement. So just to cite even another study, has shown that strong programs can increase employee productivity by up to 13%, and just not to mention overall increases to morale that they can bring. One of my favorite CSR examples comes from a client that sits within real estate that owns and operates retail properties, and they've been a customer since 2019. So to better support the communities they invest in, their board of directors established a sustainability committee, which had the goal to further establish sustainability as a business driver for everything that their company does. So to more clearly articulate not only their commitment, but also the actions that they are taking to support it, they developed a microsite, which includes content like a message from their CEO, resources, updates, and ways to contact their committee to share additional ideas. And given the overall reception of the microsite, they continue to regularly update it, which is now 2 years after its initial launch. And in addition, they won a marketing and communications award for their microsite, which was just really exciting to see that their work has been recognized as the public as well, just far beyond their initial internal audience.
Great. Yeah. And just to walk you guys through another kind of Ceros specific example, we have this piece that we've linked here. This is actually a piece of content created by our team internally here at Ceros. Essentially, we have a committee called Ceros Voices that promotes diversity and inclusion. And what they wanted to do was create this almost like newsletter style hub where any Ceros employee could jump into the experience and find different initiatives and programs that they can potentially participate in, or that the company is participating in, that they can learn more about. And they wanted it to be a really interactive way for everyone to get involved and quickly find the information that they need. So they actually created this piece. And the really cool thing here is we actually, or our team, used a Ceros inspired template, which you can actually see in the smaller photo to the right, as a piece of this experience. So I always like to tell people on trainings and things, you don't have to use a full experience of a template. You can take different bits and pieces from different templates and copy and paste those into other pieces you're working on. And that's exactly what they did here. They created the header, and then they wanted this cool interactive portion below. So they just grabbed the bottom half of that template, selected the modules, did literally a copy paste into this piece, where then they could just swap out the text, images, and add in hyperlinks and things like that. So just a really cool other way that they used a template on Ceros Inspire to create this experience.
Yes. Yeah, and I love this one, and just the little customization and the animations up top.
Yeah, it's so cute.
So next, I actually have another nice little one that also has some illustrations, speaking of design-wise, and this is getting into more HR and people operations. So once employees are recruited, there is a lot of work that needs to be done to get them fully onboarded, brought up to speed on protocols and procedures, and more. So increasingly, we are seeing people ops teams leveraging interactive content to help communicate with employees, whether they are in the office, working remote, or both. And visual formats, I mean, they just help to make this kind of traditionally dry and sometimes, quote, boring content like leave policies and health benefits more engaging, and also gives the ability to track analytics to make sure that people are reading what they should. So one of our customers that does a beautiful job in doing this is a global technology and media company, and they've been with us since 2016. And while they use Ceros for a variety of use cases within marketing and sales enablement, they've expanded their reach over the last few years into internal comms as well. As a global company with hundreds of employees, they have a mature HR team who is invested in programs to not only attract the best talent, but to retain that talent. And their HR team, though, they really realized that even if their offerings were top of line, if employees weren't reading that and didn't know what was available to them, it was really all for naught. So to be more accessible and relatable, their head of people operations partnered with their design team to turn their informational guides and more into experiences like we see here. And these experiences, they have gotten good engagement, with each receiving well over a minute and 30 seconds or more in engagement time. And they're now working on just further optimizing this type of content, as well as exploring additional projects within HR, more connected with recruitment and ongoing training.
Yeah, that's such a cool piece. And just to again tie it back to something our team did internally, we linked another experience here, which is actually an experience from our human resources team that they will provide new employees with on their first day. So this is a really cool interactive piece, because not only provides them with everything you need to know on your first day, like what you need to bring, what you should prepare, what an outline of the potential day could look like to clear up any nerves or confusion coming in. You know exactly what to expect. They also have a page in here that has all of our Ceros policies, potential links to important internal resources that you could need or be curious about once getting started at Ceros. So really, really helpful resource. And the cool thing here is you'll see it's not a super tricky or difficult build. It's a multi-page experience where you can tab through these different sections. And it's really just a collection of text, different icons, and a few buttons. So the nice thing here is you don't need to have design experience to put something like this together. If you just have a basic understanding of how to add text boxes in the studio. And then these icons, you could leverage our integration with the Noun project to pull in different icons and imagery for the experience. So someone who is on the HR side or on an internal comm side that wants to put something like this together, you don't necessarily need that design background to create something like this that is a really cool interactive piece, but it'll be pretty simple to set up. And then additionally, something else I like to point out with this experience in particular is it would be really easy to turn into a template for your team to use moving forward. So potentially if you wanted to use this to maybe promote a team event that you guys are running, you could copy and paste an experience like this that was created. So you can copy experiences in Ceros and then just reskin them with new text. So on the page that has, here's what you'll be doing each time on your first day, you could swap that out with different events you guys are running and different things you could be doing throughout the day with that. So there are different ways that you can repurpose this. So if you only build it once, you can copy and paste it, swap out the text, and reuse it for future content. So just like to always point out that you don't need that design background. I know I personally don't come from a design background. I come from the marketing side of things. So I know that this is a piece I could definitely find my way around in the studio. I could repurpose this. So just another really cool example to keep in mind. It doesn't always have to be some huge complex build. It could be something more simple, but that still has that interactive, engaging component to it rather than just a Word doc or something like that.
Yeah, and I agree. Yeah, I like just the simplicity because like Caroline, like you said, we recognize that not all companies are set up for HR teams to be able to leverage design resources. So yes, you can still do simple things. So those were the ones that we had planned. So I guess, Caroline, do we have any, submissions in the chat that we might want to dive into?
Yeah, nothing in the chat, but I was actually looking at some of the questions coming through the Q&A panel. And it does look like someone sent in a request for brand relaunch. If you want to go through that one, that could be of interest. And if anyone else has other ones that you're interested in, keep sending them in and we can answer any questions at the end as well. But yeah, Renee, someone requested this one if you want to go through it.
Perfect. Yes. So brand relaunch, and that's a great resource. And I know that's something that a lot of our customers do encounter within, when being a customer with us. So interactive content, it can be used to kind of support your brand relaunch or your website redesign, whether it's to quickly mock up and prototype new ideas, or create assets to build excitement and buy-in, or to create interactive brand guidelines to assist in the adoption and management of a new brand. So one of the best examples we have of how a customer has used interactive content in this way comes from one that sits within the B2B consulting space, and they have been a customer since 2018. So about a year ago, they had embarked on a brand refresh as they wanted to better position themselves in a quickly changing world as to stand out from some of their other competitors. And as this was a high profile initiative, I know a lot of people can relate that sometimes brand refreshes can be a very fraught and emotional exercise. Their marketing and design teams, they had a lot of stakeholders involved who needed to be kept up to date and ultimately give sign off for any concept they wanted to move forward with. So to drive that buy-in, they used Ceros to create a series of internal experiences that help to showcase progress and present creative concepts to their executive team, their colleagues, and more. And by helping to get the company on board through creating these interactive experiences, which really drove, excitement, they were able to keep pace with their project timeline. And in addition, they were able to easily convert the assets they created into a brand microsite with downloadable assets, which ultimately helped to encourage new brand adoption. So definitely lots of things that you can do, many different touch points within that whole idea of a brand relaunch to use in interactive content. So Caroline, if you had anything to jump in here with this one as well.
Yeah, not too much to add here. The only thing I would also add is what can be really helpful with keeping your brand consistent and things like that is creating a brand toolkit. You guys have probably heard us say that 100 times, but I know we do have a really great brand toolkit on Ceros Inspire, where if you want to keep all of your, buttons, hotspots, logos, icons, things that you commonly use in one place, you can create a toolkit just like this, and you can use that in that toolkit that we have, the template on Ceros Inspire, that you can easily pull from moving forward. So just wanted to highlight that there is a template there that you guys can leverage as well.
Great.
And Renee, if we do have time before questions, we did just have another request to see the building culture example. If you don't mind just doing a quick overview of that
Yes.
before we open it up to any last questions.
Perfect. Yeah. So building culture, I realize this is kind of a catch-all term, a little bit vague. But what I really mean by this, it's the idea of how to foster employee engagement and participation, whether it's through hosting events, whether they're in person or remote, and that could be participating in a charity or sponsoring team sessions, newsletters or more. That's what it really, kind of what I mean by that. And interactive assets, they can be created to help with the communication, promotion, and distribution of all of these different activities. So the example that we see here, this is from a customer who has been with us since 2018. And their company culture, they have a really, really strong one. And they very much value things like not only giving back to their communities through charity participation, but also giving to their employees through things like hosting events and internal like learning seminars. So to help drive awareness and then, make it easy for people to participate in RSVP, they use interactive content like what we see here to showcase what is the opportunity, have all of the information very clearly accessible of, where is it, when is it, and then having very clear prompts for them to RSVP to attend. So like I said, anytime, you are having something that you're trying to get, your employees to sign up for and remember to attend, interactive content is a great way to make it look exciting, show them about, what are you going to get if you do participate, including photos and things like that to drive that excitement. And again, making it easier for them to attend.
Yeah, definitely. And Renee, I don't actually think we have a link to the what this just reminded me of, but it just reminded me of a couple of things we've done internally at Ceros. I did not link them here, so I'll be sure to send out the links in the follow-up. But there are two things that this reminds me of. One is we ran a very large Ceros cultural event, I guess about a year and a half ago now, called Camp Ceros. It was an internal event for all employees, and they actually used the tool similar to what this company did here to create the invite page for that event. And it was a really cool experience that got your attention. It made you interested in wanting to join, and everyone could register through there through an embedded form. So it was a really cool way to get everyone involved. It was very similar to this piece, and we've actually used it as a template for other events and things that we've run since. And it also reminds me, Renee, you probably remember this experience, but if you guys are familiar with Object States, the newer feature in Ceros, when Object States was released a couple months back, we were all internally, of course, very excited about it. So what our product team did to get everyone really excited internally was they ran an Object States competition where they basically said anyone who goes in the Ceros studio and builds the coolest thing with Object States can win a variety of prizes. And they actually created the landing page for the event or for the competition in Ceros. And it was a really, really cool experience where you could learn, you could see different examples of Object States, but you could also enter to be considered to win in the competition. You could navigate through and see different prizes. So like Renee said, it's just a cool way to display your information rather than just an email or anything especially with internal comms. You guys know you get so many emails. So sometimes it's hard to kind of digest if you're just reading an email in plain text. But if you have a link that you're sending out to a really cool interactive piece like this, it can just be a way to get people's attention, let them know, hey, there is something cool going on. Maybe you guys want to get involved. So again, I know we didn't link them here, so I can't show them, but we'll be sure to send that in the follow-up.
Yes. Yeah. And I do remember those experiences, and it just, and helped to get us excited. And I think just in general, we spend so much time and energy making such cool content for our own customers. I know probably a lot of you do as well. And sometimes you want to give a little bit of that love back internally, especially as many of us are working remote and want to feel a little bit more connected.
Definitely. Yeah, I love the building culture examples.
Yes. So I guess if you want to check if any more came in, and if not, we can go to the wrap up and any questions, but happy to dive into the others if people would like.
Yeah, I see a couple questions that we can save for the end, but I don't see any other requests for use cases. So yeah, you can definitely keep moving.
Cool. So we will wrap things up. I know these will be familiar to those who have joined the previous sessions, but they still very much ring true regardless of the use cases we're talking through. And the first one again is just to always start with your goals. Really define what is the problem that you're encountering and what are you trying to solve for, and then figure out what is the best format or the best design, to really solve for that problem. The second one is always just to be realistic with your resources. Understand how much time do you actually have to get something done, as well as what is the level of design that you're working with. So again, kind of going back to the example that we showed, for our onboarding and what to expect. We knew that we weren't able to get access to our design team to create that onboarding experience. So because this was going to be our HR team creating it, we kept things simple. We planned it out just to be mostly text-based and icon-based. It looked great, but it was simple because we knew that we had to be realistic and appropriate for what we were working with. And the last point is always to think long-term, especially if you are new to creating interactive content. I know some of the examples we saw, they were beautiful, won an award, but you don't have to do that off the bat. Start small, start simple. If there's templates available that you can work off of, even if you're just copying and pasting little bits and putting things together, do that. And then you'll slowly find yourself creating those bigger, more complex experiences. So that's really our parting thoughts for this. And with that, we can jump into, some questions.
Perfect.
I'll turn my video back on for this part.
Yeah, I'll turn mine on as well so you guys can see us again. Awesome. So I know there are a couple questions, so we can start with those, but please feel free to keep sending them in. I believe we blocked off until 2:40. I don't know if questions will take 10 minutes, but we have it if we need. So please feel free to send those in. But we can get started with the first couple. Renee, I'm going to direct this one over to you. It says, kickoffs are always a really big deal at our company. Beyond the strategy recap example, what other use cases do you recommend?
Yes, and I realized that we did not look at the kickoff example, so I'll kind of quickly navigate to that. So for anyone else who's not familiar with what a kickoff is, but kickoffs, for those who haven't participated in, many of our customers have in the past, or they currently do on a yearly or quarterly basis. They'll hold all hands meetings where they'll gather all the teams in. They'll do things like recapping, what did they achieve last year? What are they going to be working towards and focusing for the next year? So we have customers who will create kind of these one pagers like what we see here, where they'll recap that, kind of visualize this very complex information in just a more visual, interesting way to communicate that. So beyond kind of doing these types of experiences, there's a lot of different touch points you can consider. So leading up to the kickoff, create one of those event landing pages to get people excited, like what we saw with the building culture example of, what to expect, when's it going to happen, those kind of details. Then, of course, during the kickoff itself, you can use presentations. So for any of the speakers that you have, doing that in an interactive way. We actually had another customer who they wanted to have like an icebreaker activity. So they did a fun quiz in Ceros and sent it out to everyone. They reported on the results live. So that was a fun thing. And then, of course, after the event was done, just recapping and linking to the different call recordings or the decks as well, so people could refer back to it. So lots and lots of different examples you can do within, kickoffs and strategy.
Yeah, and that's actually a really great question for Renee, because she actually just ran a killer customer success kickoff for our team here at Ceros. And just to kind of add to something Renee said about using Ceros for presentations, I know that was extremely helpful. So if you are running some sort of kickoff event and there are going to be multiple people presenting, and maybe you want some sort of consistency across the presentations, or you just want to make it easier for people. Our professional services team created a huge Ceros experience presentation deck that anyone could use for their customer success kickoff presentation. So I know myself and someone on my team were running a presentation in it. And it was really nice for us to be able to use that template that was already created. So if you have a presentation template and then anyone can just copy that, use it for their own presentation, it not only saved us a ton of time, but as I mentioned before, I don't come from the design side of things. So for me, having that beautiful template already built that I know would look 1,000 times better than any experience I put together was really, really helpful. And then it was also really nice because all of the different teams running their presentations, all of the decks looked very similar, and there was a sense of cohesiveness. It was really cool to see how people put their different spin on things, but it also made the entire event feel super organized and put together because there was this nice cohesive theme throughout the entire thing. So great question. And I just wanted to add to that there.
Yes.
Another question that came through, and we don't have a ton of questions, so if you guys have them, please send them in. If not, we could definitely give you guys a few minutes back. But this other question says, how long do these experiences take to create? It was a really great question, and it definitely depends on a lot of different factors. All of those different experiences, spanning, depending on how much time they're going to take or how large of a build they are. So some of those more intricate pieces definitely could take on the longer end. But like we said throughout, if you use a template or if you have a brand toolkit that you can pull from, it just saves so much time. I know, like I was just saying with the presentation I use, it only took us a few hours to add in our copy and our images, not even a few hours, but that was because we were kind of coming up with it as we were adding it in. So it was really easy and streamlined. So if you do have templates that you can pull from, if you want to pull from the Ceros Inspire templates like that example we showed, that is just a tremendous time saver when creating the pieces in the tool. Renee, not sure if you have anything to add to that one.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it is dependent. Like the invites, those event invite templates, that could be easy within a day or two. The microsites definitely a week plus, and then it's like how many rounds of revisions and things you have there. So it does range. I guess the only other thing that I would add is that, if you do have something that you do want to work on and you want a better sense of timing, or say like, hey, I want to do this type of experience, but I only have a week to dedicate, ask your CSM, or we have our Slack community where you can also ask questions like that. And we can kind of give you some advice there or point you in the right direction of other templates that you could use.
Definitely. Another question that just came through is a great question. It says, are there any recommendations on how to cut down on text and still communicate all of the elements of a message? I don't know, Renee, if you want to start with that one, or I can try to tackle it.
Yeah, so how to cut down on text. And I definitely would like to send the link later. We do have some small group trainings and webinars that are more copy centric, but I know that like things that we do, we like to keep kind of the bullet points to 1 to 2 sentences each. I think if we go back to, maybe it was this experience where we actually see in the screenshot, where we had the little icons, we kept things to only 1 or 2 sentences just to trim it down, and then communicated some of those other aspects through using icons or pictures. Oh, and I actually have my screen paused, so thank you.
I don't think we can see what you're showing.
There we go. So now you should be able to see. So where the icons and just 2 sentences. So how to use pictures maybe to communicate some of that. Another thing I know, like in the examples that we saw that were more like leave policies and things like that, where you really can't cut that information, you might take a layout like where we saw like 2 sentences, that's maybe the gist of it, have like an icon, a plus icon, and use a pop-up to show some of the denser content, or even in some cases you can maybe link out to a full PDF as well, if it makes sense, especially if it's like healthcare benefits and it's easier just to drive out to there. Hopefully that helps, but I would highly recommend some of the content, webinars that we have available.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to say that too. Our content strategists run those small group trainings twice a month, and they are really helpful, and they're live, so you can ask questions just like this. So we definitely would recommend doing that. But Renee, like you said, I would totally recommend leveraging pop-ups and things like that, because if you need to have a ton of copy within the experience, but you don't want to inundate the user with a bunch of, sentences right off the bat, having different pop-ups and interactive elements, carousels, things like that, where maybe you're displaying the text in a more kind of dynamic, interactive way, where then the user doesn't have to read all that text if they don't want to. You have the important facts. If they want to read more, they can click on that plus sign or the read more button, whatever you want. You can click on it, reveal a pop-up with a ton of text and information. And then that way they have the ability to read all that content if they want, but they don't necessarily need to. So it's a good way to give users the option of how they want to navigate the experience. So definitely would recommend that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Another question that came through, I actually want to follow up with you after. Someone just reached out and said they're new to Ceros and are interested in the process and all of that. So what I'm going to do is follow up with you separately. I didn't want you to think we forgot your question or miss it, but we will follow up with you separately to make sure you get all of the information that you need. And another question that just came through the chat, which is a great one, is says, does it help to mix templates, or would you recommend that we stick with one overall look? That's a really interesting question. I think it's really cool that you can take different modules from different templates and use them in other pieces. I don't necessarily say I would take like the first half of one and the second half of one and mix them together without, reformatting it at all. However, you can upload your own brand fonts and your brand colors and things into Ceros. So if you are using those templates, and we like to say like Frankensteining them together, you really do have the ability to customize it and make it look pretty seamless. So it's not like you're gonna have one font in one place and another font in another place. So you can go in and customize every piece of those to make them feel very cohesive. If you are pulling things from different templates, as long as you're, keeping in mind, okay, I want to make sure I'm changing this shade of blue to the other shade of blue to match the rest of the piece and all of that. I think that can be super helpful as well. And then you can also customize the elements within a template. So say you see a template that maybe is very heavy on illustrations and icons and things like that, but your piece is more, realistic imagery or anything like that. We have that replace image tool in Ceros where you can grab those icons or illustrations or whatever it is and hit replace image and swap it with your own image that you have saved on the computer. So if you do want to customize the look and feel, you can do a lot more than just changing colors too. Another thing, sorry, Renee, and then I'll let you jump.
No, good. You're covering it all. You're saying everything I would say.
Another thing that I really love when working with templates is you actually can copy and paste animations from one thing to another. So if you pull in, something from a template and you like the animations on it and you want to keep that, whether it's a certain fade in on the text or whatever it is, you want to keep that consistent throughout the rest of the piece that maybe wasn't pulled from the original template. You can right click on that text, say copy animations, and then paste those animations on a ton of different things throughout the experience. So that way you can keep all of that cohesive as well, not just the colors and things, but the overall feel through the animations and the timing and all of that. And it also saves you time on the build because you don't have to apply those animations 100 times over. Mm-hmm. So just something else I wanted to add, Renee, if there's anything else you wanted to put in.
No, I think you captured it perfectly. Yeah, keep consistent with the colors, animation styles, things like that. Yeah, and mixing and matching templates, it's great for just taking that kind of raw functionality.
Definitely.
Yeah. We had a question as well. So is it easy to create an experience with minimal movement and interactivity and then go in and enhance it bit by bit?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say it's definitely easy to modify experiences once you build them. So if you wanted to create an experience, what I would recommend is, I don't know if you've been in the studio, but you can always set up a platform training with myself or someone on my team. Or we do also offer Ceros platform trainings bi-monthly as small group training sessions that you can register for, and we go through a full build. So once you get that overall kind of baseline understanding of just like, here's how to change the canvas size, here's how to add a text box, here's how to add images and things. I definitely would say once you get there, it'll definitely be easy to create something that has minimal movement and interactivity because you're really just adding in the text and images, lining them up on the layout. I can also mention here our import feature. So if you had like a Photoshop or Illustrator file that someone on your design team created, you can also drop that into Ceros. But yeah, it is definitely easy to create an experience with minimal movement. And then after you build that out, you can go in and then start adding animations at a later date, or then start incorporating some interactivity. Maybe you look at it and say, you know what, these images would look a lot cooler if they were in a carousel where you can kind of click between them. And then you can kind of build onto that and iterate on that. So that's one thing you can do. And it's easy to update experiences in Ceros. You jump in, you make your changes. And then if the piece is already published, you can just hit update and that'll push your changes live. It doesn't change the URL or the embed code. So you don't even need to send that out again or re-embed it on your site. It'll just update on the fly. So definitely easy to go in and iterate on your content. And another thing I will add here is you can also do that after looking at your analytics, because we do have those pre-built Ceros analytics are built in to the platform. So if you're looking at your analytics and seeing, okay, I sent this to my entire company, but no one's getting past page 1, maybe you move up the navigation button or something like that, and then you can update it. They still have the link, and then you can see if they're getting past page 1. So there are different ways that you can use the analytics to make changes and also just kind of enhance it bit by bit on your own time. Cool. Well, that looks like to be our last question. So thank you all so much for joining. I think we're perfectly spot on time. Thank you all for joining and for sending in such great questions. We love doing these. So if you guys have any other topics that you're interested in seeing or different webinar sessions that you'd be interested in, please let us know. We're always looking to plan new and interesting sessions. So thank you all again, and be on the lookout for the recording and the deck probably later today. So thank you, everyone. And thanks, Renee. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Bye.